After realizing I was seducing the wrong person, I packed my bags and fled the city overnight. Even the stray cats in my apartment complex heard the rumor that I went abroad for medical treatment. It took me forever to find the real target. I spent over 6 months trying to win Anna over. Her affection meter was stuck at 80% and refused to budge. Just as I was pulling my hair out, my previous target, Audrey, suddenly appeared. She gave Anna a smirk and said her taste in boyfriends was terrible because this man was a massive liar. My legs gave out. I almost dropped to my knees right there. I cursed the system in my head for not telling me they were sisters. The robotic voice of the system buzzed with excitement. It detected double the fun and offered a hidden quest. It said adults do not make choices and promised to double the prize money. I wondered if it was too late to uninstall this thing. A beep had echoed in my head, confirming the romance system was bound to me. Host Noah, age 23. I stared at the glowing words on my bathroom mirror for 3 solid minutes. The robotic voice in my ear finally convinced me this was not a hallucination from staying up too late. I pointed my toothbrush at the empty air and demanded to know who gave it permission to bind to me. The system reminded me of my wish last night. I had wished for an epic romance, and it automatically matched me with the best romance system. I argued that I was just yelling along with the crowd at a concert. I almost spit out my toothpaste. I told the stupid program I refused. Before I could finish, a new line of text appeared on the mirror. It offered a beginner gift package. Successfully romancing the target would reward me with $10 million in cash. My finger moved faster than my brain to hit accept. I smiled brightly and called the system my long-lost best friend. Who could refuse $10 million falling from the sky? Especially a recent grad stuck in a rat race like me who graduated straight into unemployment, survived on odd jobs, and had a 4-digit bank balance protected by a 6-digit password. A highly pixelated photo suddenly appeared on the mirror. The quality was so bad, it looked like it was taken with a 20-year-old flip phone. I could barely make out a woman. She had a small beauty mark near the corner of her eye. She wore a plain band on her right pinky finger. A small line of text in the corner warned that target features might have a 2% margin of error. I squinted at the image for a long time and complained that I could not even see her full face. The system claimed blurry photos built character and improved a host's investigative skills. I rolled my eyes. The system's voice suddenly sounded guilty. It admitted there was a glitch during the image transfer, and the main server was trying to resend a high-definition version. I said I would wait for the clear picture and turned to leave. The system raised its volume and warned that abandoning the mission now would trigger a lifetime loneliness penalty. I felt like I was being held hostage by this ridiculous program. The system then offered a 5% advance on the prize money as a gesture of good faith. My phone buzzed. A bank notification showed a deposit of $500,000. My new balance was over $500,000. I stared at the blurry silhouette on the mirror, took a deep breath, and agreed to the deal. The next day, I printed out that $10 million photo and began a citywide manhunt. After secretly photographing 9 different women with beauty marks, I finally found a match on the Seattle General Hospital website. Her name was Audrey, an attending physician in the cardiology department. I squinted and compared her ID badge photo with a blurry picture several times. They looked incredibly similar. The woman in the photo wore a white coat and had a light brown beauty mark near her right eye. She had slender fingers. I noticed the pinky ring was missing. The system explained the photo showed a pinky ring, but a 2% error margin meant a slight shift in jewelry placement was perfectly reasonable. The system compared the images and confidently declared she was the one. I looked at the word unmarried on Audrey's profile and gritted my teeth. I decided to ignore the ring discrepancy. $10 million was waiting for me. I clenched my fists, rushed into the hospital, and registered as a patient. For our first meeting, I decided to play the sweet, innocent guy. I walked into the clinic and told Dr. Audrey I had been experiencing heart palpitations. Audrey did not even look up from her charts. I explained my specific symptom was that my heart raced whenever I saw someone beautiful. I sneaked a peek at her and added that it was happening right now. She finally looked up at me. Her eyes behind her glasses were as dark as ink. She tapped her finger on the desk. She asked if I really paid a $50 copay just to say that. I was speechless. Seeing my first attempt failing, I had a sudden stroke of genius and grabbed her hand. I told her I was actually there to thank her because my grandpa was hospitalized last week and she saved him. She calmly pulled her hand back and smirked. She asked for my grandpa's name. I panicked and blurted out Walter. She noted that the cardiology department did not admit any patients over 70 named Walter last week. She asked me to think really hard about his last name. I blurted out White. Audrey just stared at me with a deepening smile. I knew I was doomed. Under her death stare, I walked out of the clinic in defeat. The system chimed that Audrey's affection increased by 5 points. Her current affection was 5 out of 100. I cannot believe that actually worked. The system noted that the target seemed intrigued by clumsy lies. I squatted in the hospital corridor and angrily searched my phone for ways to professionally fake an illness. I looked up common heart disease symptoms and how to make a doctor fall in love with a patient. After my miserable failure, I learned my lesson and decided to take a professional approach. I spent the whole night studying internal medicine textbooks. I chewed on my pen cap and circled ventricular tachycardia in my notebook. It sounded serious enough, but would not cause me to drop dead on the spot. To make it authentic, I spent $15 online to buy a professional-grade EKG report. The next day, I marched back into the hospital with dark circles under my eyes. I handed over the EKG with a solemn expression and told Dr. Audrey I suspected I had a severe cardiac arrhythmia. Audrey took the report and frowned. I felt secretly proud of my carefully selected textbook template. She suddenly called my name, and I sat up straight on reflex. Audrey held up the report. The watermark name, William Smith, was clearly visible in the sunlight. She asked if I knew that all major hospital EKG reports had the patient's name watermarked on them. She tapped her finger on that unfamiliar name. My brain buzzed. I cursed myself for not noticing that earlier. I wondered if it was too late to fake fainting. I froze in place and felt all the blood rush to my face. Audrey suddenly chuckled and handed the report back to me. She asked if William Smith was another relative of mine. The system announced Audrey's affection increased by 5 points, bringing the total to 10. I was in disbelief that my blunder actually gained points. The system hinted that the target seemed to find persistent but clumsy suitors endearing. Even more surprisingly, Audrey handed me her phone before I left. She told me to add her on iMessage. She paused and said I could just text her if I had questions instead of wasting money on copays. I mechanically scanned her QR code. I did not fully process it until I walked out the hospital doors. She had actually initiated the contact. The system warned that my heart rate was at 128 and offered emergency first aid guidance. I told it to shut up. I could not help but laugh out loud. That $15 EKG was worth every penny. Over the next 2 weeks, I figured out Audrey's schedule and launched a full-scale romantic assault. I pretended to bump into her at the library and said it was a crazy coincidence that she also read the New England Journal of Medicine. She corrected me while I was bragging and pointed out I was holding the journal upside down. I got a part-time job at her favorite coffee shop. I purposely spilled her coffee and offered to buy her a new one. After the third intentional spill, the manager fired me. I even sneaked into the hospital volunteer program just to have a legitimate excuse to see her more often. I did a lot of ridiculous things for her. She saw through my tricks every single time, but always indulged me. The system congratulated me when Audrey's affection hit 50. It said I was halfway there and on track to complete the mission. It felt way too easy. I felt uneasy and sensed something was wrong. That feeling lasted until a stormy night. I went to see Audrey while she was working the night shift. Lightning flashed outside the window. A sudden strike knocked out the power and plunged the entire corridor into darkness. I let out a startled gasp. A second later, a hand grabbed mine. The grip was firm but gentle and made my heart race. Audrey chuckled softly. The emergency lights flickered on. I realized we were standing incredibly close. I was practically pressed against her and could smell the faint scent of sterile alcohol on her clothes. I apologized and instinctively stepped back. She pulled me back. She told me not to move in a slightly husky voice. She warned me not to step on her stethoscope. I looked down and saw her stethoscope lying right by my feet. We both bent down to pick it up at the same time. We locked eyes when we looked up. We were close enough to feel each other's breath. Her gaze slowly moved down in the dim light. She asked me what I really wanted. Before I could answer, the system blared a piercing alarm. It screamed error and said the target features did not match. I asked what it meant. The system explained the main server just sent the high-definition version and revealed the original photo was mirrored. The target's beauty mark was supposed to be on the left eye. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I cursed the system for not telling me sooner. I turned my head to look at Audrey and confirmed her beauty mark was definitely on her right eye. My world completely collapsed. I asked the system with a trembling voice if it was playing a joke on me. The system reminded me of the 2% error margin and suggested an immediate restart. Audrey noticed my strange behavior and asked what was wrong. I forced a smile and said it was nothing. I lied and said I suddenly remembered I left the stove on at home. I rushed back to my apartment, packed my bags overnight, and fled to South Seattle. Even the stray cats in my neighborhood heard the rumor that I went abroad for medical treatment. The system kept chattering away. It promised a new SIM card, a new address, and a new identity to make me disappear without a trace. I angrily told it to shut up while stuffing clothes into my suitcase. I asked how a 2% error margin could justify getting the wrong person entirely. The system went silent. After packing, I sat on my suitcase in a daze. I looked at the unread messages and missed calls from Audrey on my phone. I felt incredibly frustrated. I asked the system if I was being too cruel. The system gently explained this was just a strategic adjustment. It said targeting the wrong person was a force majeure event, just like ordering the wrong flavor of boba. I still felt guilty. The system interrupted with a ding. It detected abnormal emotional fluctuations. It asked if I was reluctant to leave Audrey or if I just did not want the prize money anymore. I choked on my words. My phone screen lit up with a bank notification. It showed a deduction of over $450,000. My balance was down to $3,000. I panicked and yelled that I was ready to leave right now. The system cheerfully pulled up a navigation map and planned the best route for me. 3 months later, I confirmed Audrey had accepted my sudden disappearance. I officially started my new round of romancing. This time, the system compensated me by using the high-definition photo for a precise database match. It even provided a complete profile of the target. I stood under a century-old oak tree at the University of Washington Art campus. I observed my new target, Anna, from a distance. Sunlight filtered through the leaves and cast dappled shadows on her. She was looking down and mixing paint. A plain silver band sparkled on her left pinky finger. A gentle breeze blew past and shifted her bangs. It revealed a pair of beautiful, captivating eyes. I held my breath. I asked the system if she looked a little bit like Audrey. The system dismissed the idea and said beautiful women often shared similar features. It cheered me on and told me to be brave. I took a deep breath and walked up to her. I said hello and told her she looked exactly like a friend of mine. I asked if we could get to know each other. Anna looked up at the sound of my voice. The light brown beauty mark near her left eye was very distinct in the sunlight. She suddenly smiled and showed 2 little canine teeth. She called my name and teased that my pickup line was way too old-fashioned. I felt so awkward I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. She suddenly leaned in close. Her warm breath brushed against my ear. She whispered that she really liked it. The system announced Anna's affection increased by 20 points, bringing it to 20 out of 100. It noted that this target seemed to prefer direct approaches. I had to admit that romancing Anna was much easier than Audrey. 3 days later, I was already leaning on her shoulder, eating strawberries. Anna suddenly leaned close, and her breath swept across my earlobe. She asked why I was always staring at her beauty mark. I guiltily looked away and said it was because it looked pretty. Anna blinked at me and pouted playfully. She said she thought I was thinking about another woman. Unlike Audrey's cold demeanor, Anna was a clingy, sweet girlfriend. She would send me voice memos at 3 in the morning complaining she could not finish her art project and needed a kiss to feel better. She would purposely kiss me whenever other guys got too close to me just to mark her territory. She would even surprise me in the art studio by hugging me from behind to teach me how to mix colors. When my face turned red and my heart raced, she would blink innocently. She would point out my hands were shaking and ask if I was cold, offering to warm them up. The most frustrating part was that after 6 months, her affection meter was stuck at 80 and refused to move. One day, while she was lounging in my arms eating strawberry cake, I pinched her ear and asked what she really wanted. Anna licked the frosting off my finger with puppy dog eyes. She said she wanted me to be her live figure model. Halfway through the painting session, this menace used her paint-covered hands to pin me against the canvas. She kissed me with a mini flavor that made my heart pound. Just as I was about to kiss her back, she suddenly pulled away. She tilted her head and smiled mischievously. She said she just wanted to capture that exact expression on my face. The system announced her affection increased by 0. I was so mad I almost dumped the paint palette on her head. On Anna's birthday, I was working my shift at a local boba shop. I looked through the glass window and saw a familiar figure across the street. The system frantically triggered an alarm. It warned that the previous target was within a 30-foot radius. It was Audrey. My hand shook so badly, I almost spilled a customer's drink. The customer asked what was wrong with me. I muttered that my life was too difficult. I trembled and crouched down, pressing my forehead against the cold counter. The bell above the door suddenly rang. I slowly stood up and saw Anna walking in with her sketch pad. She immediately noticed my panic. She followed my terrified gaze out the window and narrowed her eyes. Audrey had already crossed the street and was walking straight toward the shop. Her eyes behind her glasses were terrifyingly dark and locked right onto me. She walked straight up to the counter. Anna suddenly stepped in front of me and shielded me. Just as I was about to speak, Anna cheerfully called out to her. She called her sis. The world stopped spinning for a second. Audrey gave a slight nod. Her gaze slowly moved from Anna's protective arm up to my face. She asked who I was in a voice colder than the ice drinks. Anna wrapped her arm around my waist and proudly introduced me as Noah, her boyfriend. She nudged me and told me to say hi to her sister. My brain completely crashed. I screamed at the system in my head and demanded an explanation. The system weakly admitted it detected new information. It confirmed Anna and Audrey were indeed biological sisters, but Anna took their mother's maiden name. It mumbled something about a glitch in the family tree module. I mentally cursed the system while forcing the ugliest smile of my life. I awkwardly said hello. Audrey let out a soft chuckle that made the hair on my arm stand up. She took off her glasses, slowly wiped them, and spoke quietly. She told Anna her taste in boyfriends was terrible because this man was a massive liar. My heart rate spiked to 120. My mind was screaming that I was completely busted. Anna raised an eyebrow as if she had not heard her clearly. She kept her arm draped over my shoulder and asked if Audrey knew me. The air froze for a moment. Audrey chuckled again. Her eyes swept over my terrified face and finally landed on Anna. She said she did not know me. She paused and added a meaningful comment. She said I just looked a lot like one of her former patients. I froze. She actually did not expose me. Anna did not seem to notice anything weird. She just leaned into my ear and giggled, saying her sister thought I was handsome. I let out a dry laugh. My palms were sweating. I apologized and said I was still on the clock. Audrey did not say anything else. She just gave me a very loaded look before leaving. That look clearly meant we would settle this later. After Audrey left, Anna clung to my arm and swung it back and forth. She reminded me to come over to her house after my shift. Her eyes were wide and pleading like a golden retriever. She mentioned her parents were out of town. My scalp tingled. I hesitated and asked about her sister. Anna winked and assured me Audrey had plans tonight. She pouted and reminded me I had promised to come over. She said she even prepared a surprise for me. I thought it was going to be more of a nightmare than a surprise. I could not resist her begging, so I braced myself and went. Anna lived in a fancy house on Mercer Island. As soon as we walked in, she pinned me against the wall in the entryway. Her fingers gently traced my wrist. A cold sweat broke out on my back. I was terrified Audrey would pop out from a corner. I tried to pull away and suggested we go out to eat. Anna refused. She nuzzled into my neck with warm breath. She whispered that she learned how to cook just to feed me. Before I could ask what she meant, she grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the bedroom. I let out a panicked yelp and told her to stop. She smiled wickedly and noted my heart was beating really fast. I thought to myself that I was just terrified. As soon as we got into the bedroom, she pushed me onto the bed. I scrambled to push her away and begged her to stop messing around. My voice cracked from panic. She leaned in until her lips were almost touching my ear. She whispered that she was not messing around. Just then, a knock echoed from the front door. Anna and I both froze. Audrey's cold voice drifted through the house. She said their dad forgot to give Anna her birthday present earlier. It was my worst nightmare coming true. Anna clicked her tongue in annoyance. She reluctantly let go of me and yelled toward the door, telling Audrey to just leave it outside. The house was silent for 2 seconds. Audrey's voice suddenly dropped to freezing temperatures. She stated that I was in there with her. My hair stood on end. I shook my head frantically, begging Anna not to tell the truth. Anna just gave a wicked smile and raised her voice on purpose. She yelled back that we were very busy right now. The bedroom door flew open with a bang. Audrey stood in the doorway holding a gift bag. Her icy gaze swept over the messy bed sheets and my bright red face. Anna reacted instantly. She pulled the blanket over me and spoke in an innocent, complaining tone. She asked Audrey what she was doing and accused her of scaring me. Audrey looked back and forth between us. She let out a cold laugh and tossed the gift bag onto the bed. She offered a sarcastic apology. She turned to leave, but stopped at the door. She told Anna that a friend was waiting for her outside. Anna looked confused and asked who it was. Audrey said the friend wanted to drop off a birthday gift right now. Anna frowned and checked her phone. She muttered that she was not expecting anyone. She leaned down, kissed my forehead, and told me to wait for her. The moment the front door clicked shut, I bounced off the bed and frantically straightened my clothes. Anna's footsteps faded away. I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when I realized Audrey had not left. She was leaning against the bedroom doorframe, staring at me with a blank expression. I let out a nervous laugh and tried to escape the danger zone. Audrey stayed silent. She just stood up straight and blocked my path. I swallowed hard and tried to run out of the room, but Audrey grabbed my shirt. She asked if I was trying to run. I shrank back and stuttered that I was not. I suggested we go to the living room. Audrey sat on the sofa and tapped her fingers on the coffee table. She glared at me with icy eyes. She asked if we could finally have a real talk. Her voice was low and carried an undeniable pressure. I nervously picked at the hem of my shirt. I asked what we needed to talk about. She sneered and asked why I did not just tell her the truth instead of lying about going abroad for medical treatment. I knew I was in deep trouble. My brain worked in overdrive. I forced myself to speak and insisted I really was sick. Audrey raised an eyebrow and asked what disease I had. I mumbled about my heart condition. My voice grew quieter. She leaned forward. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. She asked if I seriously wanted to lie straight to a doctor's face. I froze in place. Cold sweat drenched my back. I made one last desperate attempt and claimed the doctors abroad realized it was a misdiagnosis. Audrey scoffed. She pulled her phone out of her pocket, opened her photo gallery, and shoved the screen in my face. She calmly stated that my passport expired last year. I wondered how she even managed to look that up. I opened my mouth, but could not form a single word. My face burned bright red. Audrey stared at me and chuckled. She told me to keep making things up. Just as I was about to spontaneously combust, the front door unlocked. Anna's voice called out from the hallway. She announced she was back and brought my favorite boba. She walked into the living room holding 2 drinks. She complained to Audrey that there was no friend waiting outside and asked if she heard wrong. Audrey gave her a cold look and said maybe she did. Anna acted like she did not notice the heavy tension in the room. She plopped down right next to me and shoved a cup into my hands. She cheerfully said it was fine because it gave her an excuse to buy me a drink. She remembered my exact order of half sugar, no ice, and extra boba. I clutched the cup like a lifeline and whispered a quiet thank you. Anna turned to Audrey with a bright smile and asked if she wanted one too. Audrey stood up with a blank face. She declined and said she had things to do, so she would not interrupt us any longer. She walked to the door, but suddenly looked back at me. Her eyes held a deep, hidden meaning. She told me to remember to come see her for a follow-up appointment regarding my illness. She added that she hoped I would explain my condition clearly next time. The moment the door closed, I collapsed against the sofa and let out a massive sigh. Anna leaned over and rested her chin on my shoulder. She asked in an innocent voice what illness I had. She wondered why her sister knew about it, but she did not. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped my drink. I felt like I could not survive this much longer. After Anna's birthday, I avoided Audrey for a whole week. Then my phone buzzed. A text message popped up on the screen saying it was time for my follow-up. I knew that number perfectly. It was Audrey. I stared at the message for 3 solid minutes. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I had no idea what to say. A second text arrived. It said if I did not come to her, she would make a house call. I wonder what she meant by that. I was just about to ignore it when my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Audrey standing outside. She was holding a medical kit. She actually showed up. I held my breath and slowly backed away, pretending I was not home. Audrey's low voice came through the door. She said she knew I was in there and I could not hide. I took a deep breath, put on a brave face, and opened the door. I asked Dr. Audrey what she wanted. Audrey looked right at me and calmly said it was time for my checkup. I insisted I was not sick. She walked right past me, set her medical kit on the coffee table, and said she knew that, but I still needed a checkup. I had no idea what she was talking about. I stood frozen by the door and watched her warily. I demanded to know what she was trying to do. Audrey did not answer. She just pulled a box of chocolates out of her kit and pushed it toward me. She told me to eat them for my low blood sugar. That was one of the fake excuses I used when I first approached her. Then she pulled out a bottle of multivitamins. She told me to take them for my weak immune system. That was another lie I had made up. I clenched my fists and forced myself to speak. I told Audrey to just let the past go. She sneered and repeated the word past. She suddenly stepped closer. I backed up until my shoulders hit the wall. I had nowhere left to run. She slammed one hand against the wall next to my head and grabbed my chin with the other. She asked if I thought it was okay to just flirt with her, run away, and then tell her let it go. The tension in the room felt completely wrong. I frantically called out to the system in my head. The system's voice was practically vibrating with joy. It announced it detected double the fun and offered a hidden quest. It said adults do not make choices. They take both, and suggested I date both sisters for double the prize money. I was so stunned I accidentally spoke out loud. I told the system it read way too much fanfiction. Audrey froze. The look in her eyes behind her glasses grew dark and unreadable. She asked what I just said. I realized my mistake and covered my mouth, mumbling that it was nothing. Audrey's eyes shifted. She finally let go of my chin. She pushed her glasses up and returned to her usual cold demeanor. She stated that Anna was not right for me. I was taken aback and instinctively argued back. I asked what gave her the right to say that. I realized she already knew about us. Audrey's eyes darkened. She explained that Anna had been like this since they were kids. She said Anna loved stealing her things just to prove she was better. My argument died in my throat. Memories of my time with Anna flooded my mind. I remembered her saying she really liked my pickup line when we first met. I remembered her asking if I was thinking about another woman when I stared at her beauty mark. Audrey noticed my realization and grabbed my wrist. She asked if I still believed Anna's feelings were genuine. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Anna's voice suddenly rang out from the doorway. She called out to her sister and asked why she was trying to steal her boyfriend right inside her own apartment. I snapped my head up and saw Anna leaning against the doorframe. She was holding 2 cups of boba. She had a smile on her lips, but her eyes were terrifyingly cold. Audrey did not reply. She just pulled out her phone, opened her photo gallery, and turned the screen toward Anna. She asked if Anna had seen this before. The photo on the screen was a selfie I had sent Audrey a year ago. Anna's expression cracked for a split second before she let out a soft laugh. She denied seeing it. Audrey scoffed. She suddenly reached out and snatched Anna's phone. Anna's face went pale. She tried to grab it back, but she was too late. Audrey quickly scrolled through Anna's photos and found exactly what she was looking for. It was a picture of Anna's phone screen displaying that exact same selfie of me. My mind went completely blank. I asked what that was. Audrey tossed the phone back to Anna. Anna caught it, and her fake smile finally dropped. She admitted she had seen it and asked what the big deal was. My heart sank straight to the bottom of my chest. I interrupted her and asked if she knew about me and her sister from the very beginning. I asked if she only dated me to compete with Audrey. My voice grew quieter. I asked if everything on her birthday was just a setup. Anna's face turned ghost white. She took a step forward and tried to grab my hand. She pleaded with me to listen to her explanation. I violently pulled back, dodged her touch, and bolted out the door. Both of them called my name from behind. I did not look back. I stumbled down the stairs and ran into the night. The system's alarms blared endlessly in my head. It warned me that the mission was still active and told me to calm down. I ran down the street and yelled at it to shut up. I said whoever wanted this stupid mission could have it. The system used a mocking tone and told me to chill out. It said the number one rule in this line of work was never falling in love with the target. It reminded me I wanted to be a heartless player. It asked if I was just embarrassed or if I actually caught feelings. I slammed on the brakes and stopped running. I told it to mind its own business. The cold night wind cleared my head a little. The system was right. I was a liar too. I approached Anna with a hidden agenda. I had no right to play the victim now. Even so, my heart still ached. I sat on the curb for 2.5 hours. A terrifying thought popped into my head. I wondered if the system was right, and I really did fall for Anna. I spoke to the system with a raspy voice. I demanded to change my target. The system told me to calm down. It said Anna's affection level was still in the safe zone. It claimed its data analysis proved she actually cared about me. I scoffed and asked if its data could tell which of her words were true and which were lies. I said since she had been playing me from the start, there was no point in continuing. The system stayed silent for a few seconds. It cited Clause 21 and said I could pay a $500,000 penalty fee to quit. I gritted my teeth and told it to just deduct the money. I promised to pay it back after my next mission. The system paused again before announcing the request was submitted and pending review. I wandered the streets for hours to avoid both of them. I turned off my phone. It was late at night when I finally went back to my apartment building. The motion sensor lights in the hallway were broken and flickered dimly. I turned the last corner and froze. Anna was leaning against the wall next to my door. She looked exhausted. Her eyes lit up the second she saw me. She closed the distance in 3 large steps and asked where I had been. She said she looked for me all night. I ignored her outstretched hand and unlocked my door. She squeezed through the gap before I could shut it. She asked why my phone was off and said she was worried sick. I ignored her rambling, walked to my closet, and pulled out my suitcase. Her voice cracked as she asked what I was doing. I silently walked into the bedroom and started packing my clothes. Anna followed me in and slammed her hand down on mine. She asked if I was leaving and breaking up with her. I pulled my hand away and coldly asked what else I was supposed to do. I asked if I should just stay and be her clown. She raised her voice and said it was not like that. She quickly softened her tone. She admitted that when I first approached her, she did want to use me to beat her sister. She grabbed my hand without warning and pressed it against her chest. I could feel her heart pounding wildly through her thin shirt. Her voice trembled as she said everything changed later. She said every time she saw me smile, heard me say her name, held my hand, or hugged me, it felt real. She choked on her words and could not finish. A single tear fell and hit the back of my hand. It felt so hot it made my fingers twitch. I slowly looked up and met her red, tear-filled eyes. Her voice was as light as a feather. She told me she really, truly loved me. She begged me not to leave. The heartbeat against my palm grew even faster. My fingers started to tremble. I remembered the rainy day she used her jacket to shield me from the downpour while she got completely soaked. I remembered her staying up all night in the art studio to prepare my birthday surprise, only to fall asleep on her paint palette. I remembered how she would magically pull my favorite boba out of nowhere whenever I pretended to be mad. I realized I was the only real liar in this relationship. At least my target was about to change, so I would not have to keep lying to her. I took a deep breath and decided to come clean. I told her it was too late. I confessed I was hiding something too. I told her I only approached them because of a mission. Anna suddenly cut me off. I looked up in shock. Her beautiful eyes were still shining with tears, but there was no surprise in them at all. She said she knew. She mentioned how I always frowned at thin air and randomly laughed to myself. She said one time when I was asleep, she heard me mumbling about a system. My mind was blown. I realized my cover had been blown ages ago. I ignored the system screaming in my head. I asked if that was why she kept her affection stuck at 80%. I asked if she was afraid I would leave once the mission was complete. She swallowed hard. Before I could process everything, she threw her arms around me and hugged me tight. She whispered right into my ear. She said she did not care why I approached her in the beginning. She asked if I could just stay with her after my mission was over. Her voice was as soft as a sigh. The system announced Anna's affection increased by 20 points, reaching a perfect 100. Virtual fireworks exploded in my head. The system congratulated me on completing the mission and confirmed the prize money was deposited. It added a helpful tip that honesty was the best strategy. I stood there stunned. I asked the system about my request to change targets. The system used its annoying, cheeky voice and said it accidentally hit the cancel button. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Audrey. She wrote that since Anna's feelings were genuine, she was willing to step back. She wished me happiness. Anna smugly waved her phone at me. She bragged that she beat her sister again. I playfully tried to hit her. She laughed and dodged, but when I turned around, she hugged me from behind. She rested her chin on my shoulder and whispered that it was her turn to romance me now, and this time it was for life. The system chimed in one last time. It detected my wish was fulfilled and began uninstalling the romance program. It said it would not be part of the rest of the story and wished us a happy life. The end.